Mary LaHammer here from Twin Cities PBS Almanac with the story behind my story. This week I'm calling it The Tale of Two Cities and Two Senators. We have two new state senators who came in special elections, and my thesis is that they couldn't be more different, and where they come from couldn't be more different. We're going to start with the Democrat because her race decided control in the chamber and keeps control for Democrats in the state Senate by that one vote margin. She is DFLer Amanda Hemmingson-Jager, and she is a scientist, and she came from the House. So definitely has political experience, and this was the must win for Democrats to retain control in divided government in Minnesota. Also, though, the Republican, a lot of pressure on him as well. If Republicans had flipped the Woodbury seat, then they needed to win this other seat. This is in Buffalo, and this is where State Representative Bruce Anderson passed away suddenly, and Michael Holstrom Jr. jumped in the race. He is in real estate and business, and comes up this whole race completely different issues, different experience, never held elective office before. But here's what fascinates me about this race. While I say they're from very different cities, very different parties, couldn't be more different, these two candidates, they were essentially elected with the same percent of the vote. When we round in TV, 62% of the vote is what both of them got. And you never know in a special election. Funny things can happen. So they both said they ran really hard, did not assume, even though Woodbury, that is an eastern suburb of the Twin Cities, Woodbury has been trending increasingly towards Democrats. But back in, 80s, 90s, beyond, it was competitive. It was seen as definitely a purple swing seat, went back and forth. But like much of the nation, suburbs have been trending a little more, especially in Minnesota, to a little more towards Democrats. Now, on the Republican side, complete opposite story. Buffalo, we would call it rural, but it's almost exurban, getting close to suburban, because the Buffalo I grew up with, I actually grew up with a cabin in the senator's district out there in Wright County. So I knew it well, but I knew it as kind of a lakes community, a cabin community. Well, now it's the fastest growing county in the entire state. It is absolutely booming, exploding. A lot of people might know the part of the district that's St. Michael, Albertville. Tons of new houses, new housing coming to Buffalo, and people are commuting, or there's just a lot of industries. There's a lot of jobs out there. So very interesting to hear about that district, and also the history that it used to be represented by the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, DFL, back in the 90s. And I mentioned Bruce Anderson, former lawmaker, passed away, creating this opening there. Bruce is really credited, and former state senator Mary Kiffmeyer too, credited for getting Republicans really organized and locking down a conservative district that's now known as really one of the most conservative areas in the entire state. The new senator-elect, said he's proud of their BPOU being one of the largest and most active. So very solidly red Republican district that used to be purple or even DFL. So we're seeing two very different trends in two areas of the state who have new lawmakers, and they come at this completely differently. Again, one quite a bit of legislative experience and the other none at all, but they both say they're coming in with a lot of optimism and hope to get things done in these closely divided chambers and recognize the tone that they're coming into. They're going to be serving with a member of the legislature who was targeted by an assassin, State Senator John Hoffman, who's still recovering from his bullet wounds and the attack on him and his wife and daughter at home. So a real tense tone, but also I think they both came at the interviews and the profiles with real thoughtfulness, knowing that they're coming in a unique time. So let's take a look at that story.
They couldn't be more different. A Republican from a rural red district and a Democrat from a blue suburban seat. One is new to elective office, the other is already serving in the House.
What do you think the difference will be from the House to the Senate?
So I've only observed kind of what I have from being in the House. I feel like there's some more rules, a little bit more strict decorum.
What does it feel like to kind of be here and see this?
It's surreal. I'm gonna be honest. I've been in the House chambers, quite a few times. I've never stepped foot in the Senate chambers.
What have people told you? What do you expect?
You hear a lot of jokes, right? You don't actually hear a lot of advice.
The scientist, geneticist from Woodbury, approaches lawmaking in a methodical way.
What do you think about being in a smaller group of people? Do you feel like you might get some more influence? margins?
I mean, mathematically, yes, but I think too it all comes down to relationships. I mean, if you're not going to have those good relationships, it doesn't matter how many people are in a room. You're just not going to get heard. You're not going to be taken seriously.
The small business owner from Buffalo brings a lot of passion to his politics and activism.
If you've ever tried to evict somebody in Minnesota, it is, I lost $20,000 in one deal, and my cabinets, you know, and there's nothing you can do. So there's a lot of problems in the way that we manage property management, and in the business world, there's a ton of licensing that goes with it. There's something special about coming in through a special election, and you believe that you have mandates from your voters, and she'll believe she has mandates from hers, and I'm excited to see how those two correlate.
Despite their differences, they both won with the same, roughly 62% of the vote.
You were the deciding vote for Democrats to retain the majority. Did you think about that? Was that pressure?
I would think about it maybe after I was done campaigning for the day, in that it's like, don't think about it too much, because we really wanted to run a really good campaign and be solid.
Your race could have decided control. Did you think about that?
We were all very excited at the idea, right? I'm sure they were too, like, hey, this could happen, you know, whether it's a long shot or not, it was a possibility.
Do you feel like because of those very, very close margins that you have to learn how to work across the aisle? Because a lot of bills are going to need bipartisan support in both
Absolutely.
chambers.
Yeah, for sure.
She replaced Senator Nicole Mitchell following her burglary conviction at her stepmother's home.
It really didn't come up that much. Ever since everything started, when people were concerned, it always came down to, is she okay? We know family stuff gets messy, and are we getting our water tower?
He replaced long-serving, well-liked Senator Bruce Anderson, who was beloved by Republicans.
Wright County was blue until 1993, 94 actually, when Bruce won, and it hasn't been blue since.
Or close.
Or even close. Right. We're proud of being the largest Republican district or BPOU in the state, and we get the most delegates, we get the most allotments, and we walk in and we know our value, we know that what the values of the district are, and we defend them well.
Meanwhile, Woodbury has moved more blue.
It's really been shifting, and I think that's just because, you know, people really care about climate change and environment, and they're worried about their health care, and we've got a lot of young families moving in. With being the health hub of the East, kind of East Metro, as well as 3M, we've got a lot of scientists in the community too. So a lot of data-driven, solutions-focused people that want to see that expanded in their community and statewide.
Nothing was taken for granted, and there was always the recognition that this is real. Democrats have nothing else to spend their energy on, so why wouldn't they throw it all at it?
It was kind of a cabin, rural community, but now people live there and commute from there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's changed, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So it's the largest or the fastest growing district in the state, right? County is the fastest growing county. A lot of that's on the east end in Otsego, St. Michael, but Delano is exploding. Monticello is huge. Buffalo, we're about to build 400 new residences.
Since both of these two new senators were elected in a special election, if they so choose, they'll have to run for re-election in less than a year when the entire legislature, all 201 members, are up. How's it feel to have to go run again in less than a year?
I'm excited. I really do enjoy hitting doors. My team, I firmly believe I have the best team in politics in Minnesota, and we're already on the ground. We're already having conversations about how to ramp back up.
What surprised you at the doors the most?
You know, it sounds partisan, but the amount of people who wanted to talk about Tim Walz really surprised me.
How did that resonate with people, especially like you say, med tech, 3M being right there? Were there some doors where people actually understood what a scientist might do?
They loved it. You know, it kind of brought us together in, like, I can't believe we're having conversations about not believing in climate change. I can't believe we're having conversations about not vaccinating our kids and making sure our kids and our neighbors stay healthy. So a lot of people were relieved that I have such a strong science background.
And they certainly heard different messages at the doors in their districts.
It was a lot of the policies. It was affordability. It was ICE coming into our neighborhoods and kidnapping our neighbors. It was the total disregard for science. So, you know, NOAA, EPA, CDC.
So many people were aware of what's happening. So many people know about the fraud. They know about the paid family. They know about the school issues. So you can say, have you heard about the fraud? They're like, oh yeah, I did. What do we do about that? And then we can have a conversation about what they think the solutions are or what they want to see out of government. It was a lot of fun and really engaging.
Now, looking at that story, another thing that strikes me is how different the issues are. These are the candidates who I would say coming through a special election are the most closely connected with voters because they both just door knocked, presumably thousands, maybe tens of thousands of doors, really heard from voters. And they said they heard different issues. And maybe it's the candidate and the issues they represent. Maybe it's the district and where the politics of that district are right now. But it's interesting. The Democrat from Woodbury talked about science, climate change, vaccines being issues that she was hearing at the door. The Republican in a more rural district said, business regulation. He's a small business owner. And he also said what surprised him. And I asked the question, what surprised you the most? And he said Governor Walz came up. He was really surprised by that. And his summary in his district, again, very solidly one of the most Republican districts in the state, was that there is real concern about Governor Walz and how he's governing. And fraud, he said fraud definitely came up. Republicans are running on fraud for sure. The leading contender, House Speaker Lisa Dameth, who's in the race, announced the first running mate. Governor Walz does not have his running mate yet, and she talked about the fact it's an advantage. She has Ryan Wilson, who ran for state auditor and had the closest race in the entire state, came within about half a percentage point of winning statewide office as a Republican, and he ran on fraud. So she thinks that's a strong issue. Republicans think fraud is a strong issue. But part of this is I like to meet people and I like to profile these new lawmakers. You may have seen this in my work over the years. And if you saw that on Almanac at the Capitol. That's the Wednesday night version of Almanac that runs during the legislative session. Last session and previous years, I've had a series of meeting freshmen, get to know you profile interviews of freshmen. Ironically, this new state senator was one of the new freshmen that I profiled when she came to the House, Amanda Hemmingson Yeager. And I remember, it being probably one of her first interviews. And a lot of the freshmen are quite nervous when it's their first interview and you're just kind of warming them up. And one of the things I often say is, this will be your easiest interview you ever get from me. This is just get to know you. You're a brand new freshman. I want to understand why you run, where you come from, what your story is. And I said, down the line when you start sponsoring bills or if you ever get in trouble, the interviews will be a lot harder. But I could definitely see from just, years ago, her freshman interview in the House and now headed to the state Senate, the confidence, the strength on camera, the growth that she's shown. So it's important for me to know that and profile. Again, part of what I'm trying to do on this Substack and these posts is tell you how we're doing our journalism, why we're doing our journalism. Definitely freshman profiles, both sides of the aisle in a real nonpartisan way, something I know that you like. And also like to hear feedback. I've been saying that week after week. Tell me what you think, good, bad, ugly. I want to know, and it definitely forms some of the things that I talk about. Last week in my story, I mentioned that these two House members that had run, that we had a House member, we had State Representative Kali Herr, of course, win the race for the mayor of St. Paul, and then, of course, the House member I mentioned who won the race in the state Senate. And I used the phrase that these two House members, won higher office, and I heard from a House member saying, not so fast. Is going to the Senate really a higher office? And I know that, it was tongue-in-cheek, and I like that banter and appreciate hearing from lawmakers. My retort was, well, they're both representing larger constituencies and had to stand in front of a larger group of voters, so maybe that's higher office. But part of that shows that rivalry that's real between the House and Senate, and a lot of House members have gone to the Senate. The other thing I've tried to do over the years, too, is show these friendships across the aisle. I've heard from many Republicans who say, gosh, they're really proud of Representative Herr and what she did in St. Paul, taking on an incumbent, kind of creating some new, fresh leadership there. And there are friendships. That's the other set of series I've done over the years, is retiring lawmakers. And the question that I would always ask them was, what was your secret friendship across the aisle? Because they exist. And since the assassination of Melissa Hortman, I've worked harder and been really deliberate in trying to show Democrats and Republicans who work together, who are friends, show them standing side by side in interviews, and really try and provide some solutions to the polarization that's really gripping our country and state and hit Minnesota hard. So it's a little of the story behind the story. Thanks for listening.